the Bible says, the text says something along the lines of, she painted her eyes and looked out the window. And so when her enemies came for her, she didn't cower, she didn't run, but rather she put on her royal makeup and faced Jehu at the window, taunting him at the very end. This final defiant gesture. She chose to go out as a queen, not a victim. It's this old idea of, if you're going to go to the hangman, go with your head held high. And, so she says something, I think, is it peace, Zimri, murderer of your master? Her pride and her refusal to be shamed in her last moments were her final act of power. And again, this goes back to the idea of selfishness, of pride. Pride goes before a fall. All of these different things that are thrown, these different aphorisms, these scriptures in some cases, thrown in our faces and in the faces of women to put them down a peg. And I love how in her death, she was still basically like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Just like a final, I will not cower. I will not bow down. I will not run away. And I love that about the story, the fact that she was defiant till the end. It was over for her, and still, she refused to capitulate.
I will not go quietly.
Do not go quietly into that good night, right?
Yes, I have goosebumps. I also love that she puts on her makeup. I think that makeup is such a complicated part about being a woman, and it's something I love so much. It is, to me, like an art form of the highest degree, and I think like drag as an art form is such a beautiful example of like the power of makeup. And it goes back to like theater and mask work and how you are perceived. Like, it really is a spell. One thing I actually learned in my Italian language class is that the word for makeup, or like the verb for putting on makeup, is the same root of magician. It's like literally doing an act of magic, because you're like performing a trick, which it's funny because in the class everyone's like, ha ha ha, because makeup, you're like tricking someone into seeing what you don't look like. But then of course my witchy brain goes to, but it's like an empowered act of magic. It's like it's a perception spell, it's a confidence spell, it's all these things. And there is something about, in the morning, I don't wear a lot of makeup on a daily basis, but I wear a little bit because it boosts my confidence. I enjoy it. I like the way I look with a little bit of makeup on. And it feels like a part of putting on your armor, right? In the same way that we're both wearing some pendants today. It's like it feels very similarly to me that when I put on my Cohere necklace, or a necklace that my grandma gave me, or something like that, that carries this weight of like protection and power, that's what putting on makeup feels like. It feels like a shield and armor and a sword all at once, because it's saying, I have power over how I am perceived. I get this control, and not everyone gets to see me at my most vulnerable. I get to decide how you see me in this way. So makeup is just such a powerful, powerful thing. Can it be used to also oppress women and make women feel bad? Absolutely. The makeup industry is one of the main culprits of like internalized misogyny and sexist marketing. It's crazy. Like the anti-aging marketing alone, we could get into all sorts of stuff there about the like idea of self-worth behind it. But reframing it as an art, as a magic of empowerment, I think has just been really powerful for me. I was someone who, when I was younger, on nights that I didn't have anything to do, I would sit in my bathroom and do my makeup and then take it off, and do my makeup again and then take it off, because it was fun and I liked playing with the colors and seeing how I looked and creating different eye shapes and feeling this connection to other women, that like this is an art form that we have for us. So yeah, a tangent on makeup there.
No, I actually, I think that's super powerful. I have so much to say about that, actually. And it is, I don't even think it's tangential at all because, first of all, I love the imagery and I love that way of saying putting on your makeup is similar to a magician. I think it goes back to, again, making meaning. If it's armor, but what meaning do you make of do you have to have it? And what situations do you have to have it? And I relate it back to my own neurodivergence and the masks that may not have been physical in the form of makeup, but were, these different personas that I felt I had to put on. And if I didn't have them on, I felt naked and I felt afraid. But if I could put on that mask, even subconsciously and not necessarily knowing how to do it. Now that I'm aware of who I am, I can put on those masks in a magical way,
Right.
similar to what you described in terms of putting
in a
on
more
this mask.
conscious, aware kind of way too, right? Yeah.
Because I want to, not because I need to. That's the difference. And that's what I think, I think and the other thing that came up for me is I feel like, and you'll have to, I want to bounce this off of you because I don't want to I want to make sure that it seems to me though that in terms of criticism of wearing makeup, it seems to me that women are much more critical of other women than men necessarily are of women about makeup. I know there's certainly men who are like, you don't look good without makeup and just say horrible things. But I
Right.
also feel like to some degree there's a lot of internalization there, that internalized misogyny as well, like, oh, look at her makeup, or things like that. I don't know what that came up for me as well.
Yeah.
But tell me if I'm right, and does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. I don't know if I could really weigh like who's more critical of makeup. Maybe I would agree that women are more critical. Who does more harm in their critique of makeup? That I think is maybe a little bit of a different story, but in terms of what you're talking about, there's absolutely something to explore there, because I think both parties and non-binary people, anyone can do harm in this realm. But it actually, in the episode that went out last week, we had a discussion about trad wives, and I was doing some research around that because I was like, oh yeah, we talked about that and I'm curious about this. And within a lot of the conversation around trad wives arises this secondary conversation of choice feminism and the idea of like, oh, but can you be a good feminist if you don't honor anyone's choice, even if someone's choice is what you view as oppression, is like textbook oppression or textbook lack of freedom or lack of equality? Don't you as a feminist still have a responsibility to say, well, you get to make that choice? And where does that line fall between honoring another woman's choice, even if it's not the one, not just not the one you would make, but one that you think is actively harmful to her and actively harmful to the movement as a whole, and therefore actively harmful to other women, right? And that to me is kind of where I draw the line with this, that's no longer okay. And I think to kind of extend this metaphor of makeup with the trad wife ideology, there's a really big difference between enjoying quote unquote traditional feminine things, right? Like the cottage core is very much a thing, or like coquette aesthetic is back, and like wearing a cutesy bow and ruffly socks and like a prairie dress and being able to make homemade sourdough and like have kids and be a really great like homemade decorations and cake for birthdays. Like those are all really lovely things and absolutely not discordant with feminism at all. It's when these women then hop online and say, this is the right way to do womanhood, that it gets really harmful. And then when a feminist turns around and says, well, hang on, there's no right way to do womanhood. And then they cry, well, you're a feminist, aren't you? I'm allowed to make this choice. It's like you're not allowed to have that cake and eat it too and claim the power of choice feminism while also wanting to strip other people of their choices. You have to either hold that choice across the board or not. So within makeup, I think the same thing exists. That's like, you know, you don't need to wear makeup. Like, as a woman, isn't that inherently like subjugating yourself or performing for the male gaze? And it's like, in some ways, sure. Like it I actually don't know much about the history of makeup, but I would have to imagine like it becoming a capitalistic, marketable thing was very much engineered for the male gaze. And I know that in the 50s, a lot of makeup was marketed as, you know, making your husband happy when he comes home from work. That is very much a thing that exists. But at the same time, I think we do have a lot of spaces where women really support other women's artistry with makeup. And a trend that I really, really love online is watch me do my makeup so that men don't talk to me. And I think it's so fun to watch because women are just doing like funky, wild stuff that it's like, that looks really cool. Or honestly, like normal stuff, but like a green lip and an orange eye and like a few like dots around or something for fun. And it's like, the fact that that is just like playing around with color theory and your face shape, but we all know that that is going to scare men away. that absolutely is a thing that it's like, but it's actually protection, right? It is because...
And I would argue that the men it scares away, it's probably for a good reason. Because to me, that's fascinating. Like that idea of using that and that's intriguing. I'm curious. Like, okay, well, tell me about this. Like, and that's so cool.
The other thing I want to throw out there too, to get your 2 cents on, which this is again a broader conversation and relates to the tradwife thing as well. There was this huge trend on TikTok. I'm not sure. I know you're not a huge social media partaker, so don't ever let me over-explain anything to you that you already know. But it was conservative makeup versus liberal makeup, and it started with this one creator who I forget why she even decided to make the video, but it was essentially making fun of how conservative women do their makeup. And it is kind of funny if you look at like Fox News anchors, they all look exactly the same. They all have blonde hair. They don't know how to do their eyebrows, and they only have one shade of foundation across their entire face. And not to say that like all conservative women aren't a monolith, liberal women aren't a monolith, but there are these trends that you can notice and pick up on.
Patterns.
Right. And so it was kind of making fun of the fact that like you're performing for the male gaze, but you're actually not really good at this thing that we are trying to reclaim in this way now as our own. And so then, of course, conservative women started doing, oh, I'm going to do liberal makeup. And liberal makeup was like bold eyeliner and like a colorful lip, and it's so funny to see, or like hyper contouring their face, because and clearly this is showing my bias, so I'll own that as I go into this, but it's so funny to watch these videos and see those conservative women finish putting on liberal makeup and kind of realize that they look good. Like they look better in the liberal makeup because it's like, yeah, it's fun. You got to use the lipstick that you never get to use. You got to do something that like, why did you even buy that green eyeliner that you have? And now you get to use it and it's like, oh, actually that does kind of make my eyes pop. Actually, like I feel kind of pretty and it looks different. And then them having to perform this like, oh, but I look so ugly in this. It's just so fascinating to see how that works as it happens. And the fact that like, I think a lot of people, it just on the surface would look at makeup and say, oh, well, it's clearly like, if you think of like the archetype of the like blue haired armpit hair liberal feminist, right? It's like she probably wears no makeup. But actually, she probably does. And she's probably really good at doing her makeup. And she probably really loves it and has a lot of fun with it and does it for herself. Again, not a monolith, but I think that trend is really fascinating. And it's been really fascinating to see the way women are attacking each other in this way. Absolutely. This is women on women hate. Like, men are not a part of this at all, except for witnessing. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's
Gut
interesting.
reactions to that.
I don't know. The first thing that came to mind, and this is dating me, I know, is this you know the Life cereal commercial where it's like, hey, oh my, hey Mikey, he likes it, or whatever the
Oh,
case is with
yeah,
the
yeah,
kid,
yeah.
like and but then pretending that oh no, I didn't really like that, sort of thing. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Um, but again, it goes back to this idea of masks, right? Like I really hadn't thought about what you said. I don't really watch conservative news very much, so and I don't, as you said, I'm not a big TikTok person, so. Uh, but it just what really came up for me was the idea of the I don't really see it as much anymore. Maybe the spam filters have caught it, but the old 419 scams that used to be where I'm the Prince of Nigeria or whatever the case is, and how those emails were always rife with very obvious misspellings and things that anyone would notice. And at first it was like, well, wow, why can't these scammers, put together a cohesive sentence that makes sense, and but then you realize it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's designed to not waste their time in terms of the audience. If somebody is doesn't see through this, then that's their target. And so that's what comes to my mind too, in terms of this outfit, if you will, and the makeup is, and I'm sure the clothing is part of the outfit as well. I'm sure there's probably similarities. There's this look, and um, the reason people do it is because it works,
Right.
I suspect. And what I'd be really curious though is particularly for these personalities who are forced to do, or who choose to do it. Maybe they feel forced to, maybe they don't. I don't want. But how do they feel? What
Right.
would it be like to, would they prefer to have their own style versus being forced into, or feeling that they're forced into this style? And to me, I don't know, it resonates with me because there's a part of me being neurodivergent that feels that for so long I was forced in a similar way into a style of being this way as a human being. So
Right.
I never want to say I get it, and I don't want to try to I'm not going to be arrogant to say I understand what it's like to have to wear makeup a certain way, or feel that you have to, or feel that this is the dress code. But I get it from an emotional perspective, perhaps in
Yeah.
my own way, in that for so many years I was forced to be, this masculine guy, and had to, even now I still sometimes with friends have to put on the sports face, or and not that I don't like sports. I'm perfectly fine
Right.
with sports, and I enjoy football very much, and I'm certainly used to play basketball and love golf, and so I have nothing against sports, but it's not I don't enjoy talking about sports very much. But yet, in a group of guys, that 90% of the time, that's what you have to do. So to me, that's a metaphorical makeup I have to put on. Like if
Yeah.
I know I'm
Yeah.
going with a group of guys, I mean, sometimes I'll even like do a quick scan of what's going on in the sports world so that I have something to talk about. Like,
The
okay, yeah,
classic,
okay.
did you catch the game last night? And then the what game? And it's like,
Yeah, it's like screeching, the brakes come
right.
on. And I don't know, I kind of imagine the same thing for, like, imagine a book club, a conservative women's book club or something. One of the women come in this, liberal makeup, again, whatever that
Right.
means. Like, does the whole thing come to a screeching halt? Like, what happens afterwards? I don't know. And what bravery it would take to do that. I admire women who do, as you said, have blue hair and put on, just I admire them so much because they're themselves. And that
Yeah.
is the most beautiful thing of all. No makeup, great. Like that's awesome. But you want to put on blue eyeshadow and yellow lipstick. Awesome. Like that's what's so beautiful because it
Yeah.
expresses who you are.